Namaha. So now I will be presenting on Daivi and Asuri Sampat, human dispositions and their outcomes. First, let me share my presentation. Hope it is seen now. So we have seen that the Bhagavad Gita is often considered as primarily as a spiritual scripture, a text concerned with liberation, devotion, and metaphysical truths. But we can see that after the closer reading of Bhagavad Gita, that it is a profound text in human psychology, ethics, education, and leadership. So it does not merely speak about the God or the ultimate reality. It speaks deeply about human condition, about fear and courage, desire and restraint, wisdom and delusion. So among its 18 chapters, the 16th chapter on which I'm focusing, which is considered as Daivāsura Sampad Vibhāga Yoga, occupies an unique place. It presents a systematic classification of human dispositions, explaining how inner psychological tendencies shape moral conduct, social behavior, and ultimately human destiny. This chapter may be read as a diagnostic chapter, analyzing the roots of virtue and vice, not at the level of action alone, but at the level of inner disposition. In the contemporary world, marked by ethical confusion, leadership crisis, anxiety driven lifestyles, and value erosion, this chapter offers a timeless framework to understand why societies flourish or collapse, and why individuals rise towards inner freedom or fall into self destruction. So, in this paper, I propose to examine Daivi Sampat and Asuri Sampat as two trajectories of human development, one oriented towards self transcendence and harmony, and the other toward ego expansion and bondage, drawing upon the Bhagavad Gita, Upanishadic parallels, and traditional as well as modern commentaries. So we can see that how human disposition is reflected in Bhagavad Gita. In 16th Adhyaya, we can see that the inner structure of personality is explicated in the form of Daivi and Asuri Sampat. So it should not be merely regarded as the what we can say as mythological category, because the name appears as Daivi and Asuri Sampat. But this is divine and demonic wealth, which is suggestive of the call for human agency, as well as we can form the destiny out of that human agency. So it is not merely external categorization, but if it refers to inner structures of personality, which is composite of values, emotions, cognition, motivation, and moral orientation. So in modern psychological terms, it may be understood as the deep personality configuration that determines how a person perceives the world, reacts to situation, and makes choices. Unlike many modern psychological perspectives, which may dismiss sometimes the role of morality or ethics, Gita embraces the model of psychology with ethics. It clearly asserts that not all dispositions are equal in their consequences. Some lead to inner freedom and social harmony, while others leads to bondage, suffering, and destruction. But Gita doesn't deny any freedom, nor does it reduce human behavior to instinct or conditioning. That we have to remember. Instead, it inspires human agency, the power to cultivate this disposition, the power to cultivate Daivi Sampat through conscious choice, discipline, and reflection. So, thus, the understanding of this 16th Adhyaya, which is called as Daivāsura Sampad Vibhāga Yoga, can be applied in various areas like education, leadership science, and even the social ethics. So basically 16th Adhyaya can be called as a kind of theory which is needed for personality development. Now, two types of creations are suggested in Bhagavad Gita. They are hinted, in fact, in the 9th Adhyaya, that is divine and demonic. Dvau bhuta sargau lokesmi. Daiva Asura evacha, it is said as Daivi and Asuri. And what is the characteristics of Daivi Sampat? They are called as Mahatmanastu Mampartha Daivim Prakruti Masharata. They are resorting to what is called as divine nature. Whereas those who are of demonic nature, demonic traits, what about them? Moghasha Mogha Karmano, Mogha Jnana Vichetasaha. Everything about them goes in vain. All their karmans, all their knowledge. Now, why it is so? That is all explained in the 16th Adhyaya. So, these two types of human disposition is not only explained with its characteristics, but even the outcome is emphasized. Daivi Sampat leads to liberation, whereas Asuri Sampat leads to bondage. Now, this doesn't work only on individual level, but it has application on societal level also, on the large scale also, in the leadership science also. So when there are divine qualities, of course, the individual gets freedom, it gets liberation. But on the societal level also, that organization flourishes, society flourishes, whereas Asuri Sampat leads to the decline. As it is suggested in Jnaneshwari also, which is considered as a commentary on Bhagavad Gita, it is said that Dohi Maji Daivi Sampadaji Sreshtha Jana Suprabhata Mokshachiti. It is considered that Daivi Sampat is literally the dawn. It is the morning for liberation. It welcomes the liberation. Whereas Asuri Sampat is like a Loha Shrunkala. It is the iron chain, Moharupi, which is full of greed, lust, and infatuation. And definitely that bounds. So it is clearly said in Bhagavad Gita, Daivi Sampat Vimokshaya, Nibandhaya Asuri Mata. That Daivi Sampat leads to Vimoksha, that is complete liberation, whereas Asuri Sampat leads to bondage. Now here we must note one thing, that why these are not the strict categories. Because the word Sampat is used very emphatically in Bhagavad Gita. Sampat means wealth. This, it is suggestive that we should accumulate more and more Daivi Sampat rather than Asuri Sampat. So these are not, in strict sense, the classification of people. Yeah, it may be on the basis of profuse qualities, but one may have the mixture of Daivi and Asuri, but we should be more focused on accumulating Daivi Sampat. Now, if we see Daivi Sampat, which is described in 16th Adhyaya, in 3 verses, it is a long list of 26 characteristics, starting with Abhayam and ending with Nati Manita. So how these 26 qualities can be nurtured? That seems very challenging. Like it starts with Abhayam, freedom from fear. At many levels, we face that we are afflicted with many kinds of fear. And it is very much essential to get freed from fear at all levels. And Gita is talking about Abhayam, that is complete freedom from fear. Even ahimsa, non-violence, it is not just a personal value, but it has application on societal level also. Ahimsa is not just not causing the physical violence, but ahimsa is to be practiced on mental level also, and at speech level also, because it is the principle of not hurting anyone on any level. So these categories basically can be categorized as ethical and moral values, values that leads to psychological balance, and also spiritual discipline. Like, for example, fearlessness here doesn't mean a lack of aggression or cowardness. It means inner security, rooted in moral clarity. A person who is ethically grounded is not haunted by any kind of fear. Similarly, purity of mind, that is sattva samshuddhi, indicates psychological transparency, freedom from inner conflict. Similarly, knowledge, that is jnana yoga vyavasthiti, refers not merely intellectual rigor, but the steady wisdom which guides action. Qualities such as self-restraint, charity, sacrifice, swadhyaya, that is self-study, indicate some kind of discipline, while truthfulness, non-violence, compassion, forgiveness indicate emotional maturity. Humility, modesty, and freedom, they are they keep oneself free from excessive self-importance, egoism. So psychologically, these qualities create inner balance. Ethically, they promote just conduct. And spiritually, they prepare the mind for higher realization. Socially, they generate trust, harmony, and stability. So from the perspective of leadership and education, Daivi Sampat represents the idea of value-based competence, knowledge guided by wisdom, power tempered by compassion. So Bhagavad Gita prescribes this Daivi Sampat as a value-based framework to develop the personality, and it is essential in all kinds of fields. So Daivi Sampat leads to integrated personality. It is integration of ethics, the balanced psychology, and spirituality, which is one of the most significant insights of this chapter, that ethics, psychology, and spirituality are inseparable. Ethical clarity stabilizes the mind, psychological balance enables ethical action, and spiritual discipline gives long-term vision and meaning. A personality shaped by Daivi Sampat is capable of leadership without domination, authority without arrogance, and discipline without egoism. Such individuals do not merely succeed personally, but they uplift institutions and societies as well. So this Daivi Sampat, the framework of divine personality, is very important to develop the personality in holistic manner. Gita is not preferring the personality which gets developed in partial manner or biased manner. Only intellectual development or only physical development or only psychological development is not meant here. But the personality which integrates all these facets along with spiritual discipline is preferred with this Daivi Sampat. Now, if we go to Asuri Sampat, here we will find that listing of the characteristics, or whatever we call listing of the traits, is less in number, but these are very prominent traits. The 6 traits which are highlighted here: dambho, darpo, vimanascha, dambha, darpa, krodha, parushya, and ajnana. Now these traits are possessed by those who possess the demonic personality, or what we call it as Asuri Sampat. So it is characterized by hypocrisy, arrogance, egoism, anger, harshness, and ignorance. So we can see that in Daivi Sampat there was Mardavam, that was, not hurting anyone. But here it is Parusha Vachanam. That is a very harsh speech which may hurt to anyone. So very important is Damba, Dharma Dhvajitvam. We can see Dharmikatva Khyapanaya Dharmanushtanam means they follow the religious rituals, or they will do religious conduct just for showing others, but their inner sense is not with that. So that is Damba, that is hypocrisy. Basically, that is hypocrite behavior. Or Darpa, that is extreme level of arrogance. Vidya dhanasva janadi nimitta utseka Ramanuja say. That is a false pride, which is created out of knowledge, wealth, or swajana, maybe relatives or the people of acquaintance. Krodha is definitely harmful, that anger is given here. So, this Asuri Sampat basically is characterized by inner impurity, masked by external display. And this is psychologically very significant. The Asuric personality often suffers from moral dissonance, a split between outer appearance and inner disposition. Such individuals may perform religious or moral acts outwardly, but their inner motivation is driven by desire, pride, and domination. A central feature of Asuric personality is lack of viveka. Viveka means what? It is derived from the root vicha, to discriminate. So, discrimination between right and wrong uh, is lacking somewhere. So, intellect is not capable of discerning between right and wrong, good and bad, etc. All kinds of dualities, we can say. So, what happens? Pravrittim cha nivrittim cha janana viduhu asuraha. They do not know pravritti or nivritti. Means where to act, where not to act. So, here we can definitely correlate the Ratharupaka from Kathopanishad, where it is said that body is like a chariot and the soul is charioteer. Atmanam rathinam vidhi, shariram rathamevadit. Buddhim tu sarathim vidhi. And buddhi, the intellect, is called as sarathi, who has the control of the chariot. And manas, the mind, are the reins. Indriyani hayanahu vishayasteshu gocharan. And horses are like, means indriyas, that sense organs are like horses, and vishayaha, all the objects are like the roads. So here, if the sarathi in the form of intellect is not having the viveka, that is discriminative quality, then those horses will take that chariot anywhere they want. And so happens with Asuri Sampat. They lack in final purpose, the final destination. They just focus on short-term goals. And as a result, they are unable to achieve that ultimate goal. As described very aptly in Jnaneshwari, शेळीचे चरणे वाऱ्याचे धावणे आगीचे जाळणे स्वैर जैसे. The word swaira is very important here. He says that just as the grazing of the goat, flowing of the wind, and the burning of the fire is without any restraint, it can go anywhere. Similarly, there is no restraint, there is no control, there is no regulation on the Asuri Sampat. And therefore, it lacks in the final purpose, it lacks in the final goal. So, this lack of viveka actually invites the chain of evils. So, what happens is, one goes by instinct, one goes by desire, which is considered as the root cause of evils. And it invites many evils. It is like the prasava bhumi of many vices, we can say. Kamam ashritya dushpuram, dambhamana madanvitaha, it is said. For Asuri people, what they resort to is kama, that is uncontrolled desires. And because of this uncontrolled desire, what happens is, they are equipped with dambha, mana, and mada. Dambha we have already seen. Dambha, that is arrogance. Mana, that is egoism. And mada, the intoxication. And when the desires are not fulfilled, it invites definitely anger. Because they are focused on satisfying their own desires. As a result, desires do not get satisfied, because in the Gita itself it is explained, na chatu kamaha kamanam upabhogena shamyati, havisha krishna vartmeva bhuya evabhi vardate. Even if you try to satisfy your desires with more and more fulfillment, they will not get satisfied. Havisha Krishna Vartniva, just as fire gets more ablazed when we pour ghee into it, it doesn't get satisfied. Similarly, desire will not reach to satisfaction at all. But Asuri Sampat leads oneself to go after desires. So what happens as a result? It is said in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad also. So yatha kamo bhavati tat kratur bhavati. Desire makes a person impelled to do a particular act. Tat karma kurute. One acts like that. Yat karma kurute tad abhisampadhyate. And when one performs the action, one invites the fruit aspect. So the entire chain of what we can say, the karma bandhana gets activated here. And desire is the root cause for that. So as a result, what happens? They become ashuchi vrataha. Means they become impure. Now, impure in what sense? Their minds are, chittas are fully loaded with impressions of those karmas, good or bad they may be. And as a result, because you know that chitta is full of impressions, as per the Yoga Sutras, it becomes vikshipta, it becomes scattered, which is unable to focus. Kamadi vashena nashtadhairyaha, it is said in the commentary. They lose the strength because of their desires are not under control. Ramanuja says, Astra Vihita Vrata Yuktaha, Dambhamana Madanvitaha. Why they are Dambhamana Madanvitaha? With arrogance and all. Because Ashastra Vihita Vrata Yuktaha. They do not follow the scriptural guidelines. Means the moral framework, in short. So desires cannot be fulfilled at any point of time. Jnaneshwari says it very clearly. Jaya माझी पाणी राही ना साठवणं, पुरे ना इंधन अग्नी लागी. It is not possible. Very nice illustrations are given here. It is not possible to store the water in the net. And it is not possible that fuel will be sufficient for fire. It will require more and more fuel. Similarly, desires will go on increasing. ऐसे बुभुक्षित दुर्भर जे कोणी तयांचा अग्रणी कामजोका. So that kama, that desire is like hungry. It will go on devouring, many things. And it will lead to evil. So kama invites others. So kama, krodha, and moha are considered as three gateways to hell. Trividham narakasya idam dwaram. So Asuri wealth, Asuri Sampat has these traits. They literally invite these three evils, kama, krodha, and moha. These are the foundations, basically, to develop the demonic vices. Now, here, Gita is not just enlisting this kind of, demonic qualities, what we can say, or demonic traits or characteristics, but also going into the root cause of that. Why this type of personality gets developed, or why these traits get developed? Because of these three root causes, we can say, kama, krodha, and moha. In that also, kama is at the foundation, we can say. Kama esha, krodha esha, rajoguna samudbhava. Because earlier only in Gita it is said that when kama is not fulfilled, what happens is there is krodha, kamat, bhavati krodhaha. And if krodha doesn't get regulated, it leads to sammoha. It leads to delusion. Krodhat bhavati sammoha. Sammohat smriti vibhrama. When there is delusion, confusion, there is smriti vibhrama. One forgets who am I, what I'm supposed to do, what are my duties, what is right, what is wrong. And what happens? If when there is smriti vibhrama, smriti bhramshat, buddhi nashaha, that buddhi nasha means the discriminative intellect is lost. One is not able to choose between right and wrong. and buddhi nashat pranashyati. Then there is a decline, there is a fall. So this is a chain, the chain of evils, which is highlighted in Bhagavad Gita and which is rooted in kama. So it is said by Shankaracharya, Yad dvaram pravishan eva nashyati atma kasmaichit purusharthaya yogyo na bhavati. If one enters by these doors, what happens? Nashyati atma. One destructs the self and one is not able to obtain any kind of purushartha. Forget about the liberation. But dharma, artha, kama are also lost. So even Chinmayananda ji says, where there is a desire, anger is a natural corollary. When there is a kama, krodha will automatically rise there. And when krodha is there, it will definitely lead to your downfall. So it is very much necessary to keep this kama, krodha and moha under regulation, under control. When they are unchecked, they dismantle both personal integrity as well as social order. So this insight is deeply relevant today, where consumerism, power politics, and profit-driven ethics dominate many spheres of life. Because when kama, krodha, and mohas are nurtured, what happens is they lead to hedonism, that materialistic approach. So such people, or when such traits become prominent, such individuals become obsessed with gratification of pleasure, which leads to endless anxieties. Chintam aparimeyam cha pralayantam upashrita. So when these worries will end, Gita says, pralayantam. They can end only with the death, not with anyone else. Kamopabhoga parama etavaditi nishchitaha. So what we have to do is put that full stop to kama. But that when that hedonism is, prominent, what happens is this Asuric worldview reduces life to pleasure maximization and wealth accumulation. Such individuals definitely are consumed by endless anxiety, yet remain convinced that sense gratification is the highest goal of life. As Shankaracharya has said, ayameva purusharthaha ya kamopabhogaha. What they are convinced is there is only one purushartha of life. Like Charvakas or Lokayatikas, which is one of the Nastika darshanas, what they say is Sukham eva purushartha. So they consider that this is the only goal, that I have to gratify my senses. Even Ramanujacharya has said like that, Kamopabhoga eva parama purushartha iti manvana. That is the main purushartha, that is the main goal. What? To achieve various to achieve the gratification of various senses. But we can understand that this attitude never leads to complete satisfaction. Whereas in Kathopanishad, when Yama explains this to Nachiketas, he clearly says, Naitam srunkam vittamayim avapto yasyam majjanti baho manusyaha. That this srunka, vittamayi means it is of wealth, money, or all materialistic pleasures are like srunka. It is like a chain. And when one gets stuck into that chain of money or materialistic pleasure, what happens is majjanti baho manusyaha. They get drowned in that. They get plunged into that. It is not possible to come over that. Even Jnaneshwari says, Vadhavoni aisa dushkarmansa vyapa vahati amapa chinta bhara. That, these people, what they do, they just go on satisfying their senses and they increase dushkarma, bad karmas. And then they have to carry the load of, worries. Yamaniyamanchi vivanchana jaisi ase yogi asi nirantara. Taisi dhananjaya tayachiyamani chinte chitosani aharnisha. The yogi is thinking about yamas day and night, that how my behavior will be regulated by moral norms, yamas and niyamas. But these people with Asuric traits are consistently thinking about self-gratification, and so there is what Chintechi Tochani. They are literally pierced by worry every moment. So that is the outcome of hedonistic lifestyle, we can say. That is a kind of which leads to endless anxiety, we can say, and which leads to false ego. When one goes on continue with this hedonistic lifestyle, one nurtures the false ego, considers oneself God. Idam adya maya labdham imam. What he says, whatever is there, I have obtained. It is I have obtained this with my effort. Idam asti, idam api me bhavishyati punardhanam. Whatever is there, whatever will be there, that is my, performance. Asau maya hatah shatru anishchecha aparanape. I may, kill my enemies. Ishvaroham, aham bhogi. I am the Ishvara, I am the Supreme. I am the enjoyer. Siddhoham balavan sukhi. I am Siddha, I am accomplished, I am strong, I am powerful. Adhyaha, abhijanavan asmi. I am completely proud of myself, and there is no one similar to me. So it is extreme superiority, complex they get afflicted with, such people. And what happens is then, because of such false ego, they get deluded by ignorance. Avidyayam antare vartamana swayam dhiram panditam manyamana. Kathopanishad describes it very aptly. It says that such people consider themselves as panditam manyamanaha. That I am learned, I know everything. But actually they are avidyayam antare vartamana. They are actually under the ignorance. What happens to them? Even the effect is described. Dandramyamanaha pariyanti mudaha andhena eva niyamana yatha andaha. Just as blinds fall down, led by blinds. Similarly, these people, deluded by ignorance, but considering themselves as wise, definitely face the downfall. So that false ego, when nurtured, and that causes moral blindness, social alienation. Even classical commentaries, therefore, repeatedly warn that ego is the root of all disorder. In Gita itself, again and again, it is said throughout all adhyayas, nirmamo bhava, nirahankari bhava, that get rid of that mama, that ego, I, myself, and mine. Get rid of your possessions, because that isolates the individual from ethical norms and the spiritual reality. So socially, this manifests in narcissistic leadership, exploitation, and erosion of trust. So such person get indulged in unjust means also. Asha pasha shatair baddha kama krodha parayana. Such people are bound by desires, and innumerable desires there are. And so they are kama krodha parayana. They are actually driven by desires and anger. So anything which is driven by desire and anger cannot be right. They literally are held in bondage by hundreds of such desires. So they use any means to gratify themselves. Again, this is a very typical materialistic outlook. Runam krutva ghrutam pibet. That buy, borrow, or steal, but seek the pleasure and gratify yourself. So this goes against even the principle which is stated in Ishavasya Upanishad. Ma krudha kasya svidhanam. Don't snatch others' wealth. And whenever you are taking bhoga, tena tyaktena bhunjitaha. When even if you are taking bhoga, that is, even if you are seeking pleasure, it should be marked with tyaga. It should be marked with sharing and the attitude of gratitude. Otherwise, if unjust means are employed in achieving the pleasures, that will definitely lead to evil. So these Asuri people are demonic traits are equipped with hypocrite behavior. It was said earlier also, Atma Sambhavitaha, they are called as. Means their good karmas are there, but they are on superficial level. Yajante nama yajnaihite. They perform yajnas, they perform sacrifice. Now here yajna becomes again symbolic, because in ancient times yajna was performed. But if we see later also, certain religious celebrations or rituals are done, or religious preaching is done, but the inner sense is empty. Okay, the inner purpose is evil. Dambhena, that is done with dambha. That is, that good act, even the donation or charity, that is done with dambha to emphasize the self-ego, to get the name and fame. Like in Kathopanishad, Nachiketa's father, Vajashravas, performed sacrifice, Vishwajita sacrifice, and he donated old cows which are of no use to anyone. Nachiketas, though young boy, gets angry and took objection to that and said, Anandanamalete lokatan tat gacchati tadadat. That such people will go to the realm called Ananda, means bad realms, sorrowful realms, because such donation is of no use. So such hypocrite behavior, basically, they possess. As Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada also has rightly said, they may take the role of preacher, mislead the people, and become known as religious reformers or as reincarnations of the God. But that, is just a show. That is just the external behavior. And their inner sense is literally empty, full of impurity. Even Jnaneshwari says, Apana apana manoni mahanta. They consider themselves as great. They consider themselves as Ishvara. Hugati adbhuta garve tene. They are full of pride. Lokhandache khamba jaise sada tatha. Taise te garvishtha vakatina. They are like iron pillars, which cannot bend down. Means they lack that modesty and humbleness. मृतवासराचे कातडे काढून तया माझी तृण भरोनिया मग धेनू पुढे वत्सते ठेवून करीती दोहन युक्तिमंत. Very nice illustration is given. What they will do is, they will take the dead calf, they will just stuff the grass in it, and they will keep near the cow, and kariti dohana, they will get the milk. Such people, that such hypocrite behavior is possessed by those who possess Asuri Sampad. So we can see that what they do is, why it happens to that extreme, because they deny the supreme. Deny the supreme means not just denial of supreme reality or God, but even denial of moral order. This hedonistic approach towards life actually leads them to deny the supreme and moral order. Asatyam apratishtham te jagad ahuhu anishwaram. They say that there is no supreme, there is no order. Aparaspara sambhutam kim anyat kama hetukam. So there is nothing to worry. We have to just fulfill our own desires. Kama eva praninam karanam. Iti lokayatika drushti ayam. Shankaracharya says this is a hedonistic approach. This is a materialistic approach. And because they deny the moral order, disregard the supreme, again, these vices rise in them. Ahankaram, balam, darpam, kamam, krodham. They go on rising, because ahankara will definitely rise, because there is no one to control. So ananya apekshaha ahameva sarvam karomi iti, as Ramanujacharya says, I am only the doer. No one else can regulate me. Sarvasya karane madbalameva paryapta. I am only capable of doing everything, so I am powerful. Mat sadrusho na kaschidasti iti. There is no one similar to me. Evam bhutasya mama kama matrena sarvam sampatsyate. So there is everything to satisfy me. Mama ye anishtakarinaha tan sarvan hanishyami iti krodam. And I will kill or I will destroy those who are against me. That is the anger. So all these, vices rise when one disregards the supreme or disregard the moral order. And it is said, therefore, Mahadasura Lakshanam Parushyam. And so it leads to Parushya also. One becomes very harsh in his behavior when all these traits develop in the personality. And it has not only individual consequence, that is of downfall, but social consequence also. Holding fast to such view, to Asuri Sampad, is not just a private psychological issue. It explicitly states that such individuals become enemies of social harmony. engage in cruel actions that threaten collective well-being. So their downfall is not just metaphysical, it is psychological, ethical, and social, a gradual loss of dignity, balance, and human values. So we can see that Gita describes it with, with the symbology of naraka. Prasaktaha kama bhogeshu patanti narake ashuchau. They fall in the naraka. Now here naraka is symbolic because naraka is etymologized in Nirukta as nichaihi gamanam, that you go down. So this going down can be in any sense. You face the downfall in this very life, and of course in the metaphysical sense also. In Kathopanishad also the same fact is described. Ayam loko nasti para iti mani punaha punaha vasham apadyate me. Yama says that such people come to me again and again, means they are never freed from the wheel of birth and death. Because they are bound by what? As commentators also describe, moha jalena samavrutaha, moha jala. They are stuck into the chain of the greed, and so they face the downfall. And of course, if society is full of such asuric traits, then that also will face downfall. So these lower births are definitely, we can say, symbolic. It suggests that downfall because these Asuri people definitely love the Asuri environment, and so they get that. Tanaham dvishataha kruran samsareshu naradhaman kshipami ajasram ashubham asurishu eva yonishu. So here Sri Krishna says that I make sure that such people will get such environment, the Asuri yonis, etc. And even commentators have highlighted tamo bahulasu yonishu, means where such kind of births or such kind of environment which is full of darkness, that is full of ignorance, such is obtained by them. So even Aurobindo says they sink down into the lowest status of soul nature. So basically it suggests downfall on what we can say is all level, and this downfall is not merely metaphysical, as I said earlier. So the outcome is highlighted in the form of Shreyas. It is said that one who follows the Daivi Sampat or one who accumulates Daivi Sampat definitely obtains Shreyas. Whereas one who go on accumulating this Asuri Sampat will obtain prayas. Same is explained in Kathopanishad with the metaphor of chariot. That one who is equipped with discriminative intellect, what happens to them? Tatu tat padam apnoti. Reach the final goal, reach the destination. Whereas one who is lacking in discriminative intellect, that is viveka, samsaram cha adhigacchati, is into bondage and is never freed. So the pleasant offers immediate satisfaction, but long-term loss. So prayers will offer some short-term goal, definitely. But the good, that is Shreyas, demands discipline, but leads to enduring fulfillment. So human destiny is shaped by this choice of Shreyas and Prayas. Education, leadership, and governance must therefore be oriented towards Shreyas and not merely Prayas. Now here comes the role of scriptures and human choice. Because we may consider that these are human dispositions, so they are destined. No, it is not so. Gita gives a scope to human agency and even Shastropadesha. It is said, Yash Shastra Vidim Utsrujya Vartate Kamakarataha Nasa Siddhim Avapnoti Na Sukham Na Paramgatim. Tasmat Shastram Pramanam Te Karyakarire Vavasthitau Nyatva Shastra Vidhanoktam Karma Kartum Iha Arhasi. So Gita emphasizes the guiding role of Shastra. As Sri Aurobindo explains, Shastra is not blind tradition, but accumulated wisdom, born of insight and experience. It offers orientation. So disregarding ethical wisdom and acting solely under desire leads neither to happiness nor to perfection. Even Jnaneshwari has highlighted that. Kama krodha lobha manoni daivata palini shafata modi nazo magas vairachara hechi mahavana tethe padarpana kari joka. If you just go by kama, krodha and lobha, that is desire, lust and anger, then what will happen? It will be a big forest of svairachara without any restraint. Taya atma chora muktatechi varta swapnihi sarvatha aikuyena. And Jnaneshwari calls that person as atma chora. that one cannot, get that Atman, one cannot get connected with that self. And for such person, that liberation is such a far away that even he can't think in the dream also. So Shastropadesha is very important. Gita highlights the role of scriptures as a guiding framework and allows one to do a choice and nurture Daivi or Asuri Sampat, becoming vigilant about their outcomes, we can say. So if we see the modern commentators about, this 16th Adhyaya, Daivāsura Sampad Vibhāga Yoga, he says that this Daivi Sampat is like an army which starts with ahimsa, because this Kurukshetra is not outside but inside us, and we need the army of Daivi Sampat, starting with ahimsa, which has total 26 principles. So the front is protected by ahimsa, he says, and backed by na atimanita, which is known as modesty. And he says ahimsa and satya is the essence of all 26 gunas. Even Chinmayananda says that Gita has given a choice. Gita has given scope to human agency. Our thoughts have the power to make or mar us. So this chapter actually reveals the scientific observations made in the physical, mental, and intellectual behaviors by our ancient seers. Aurobindo has observed this Daivāsura Sampad Vibhāga Yoga as metaphor between the struggle between the Daiva, means divine, and Asura Pravrutti. Because from the Rigveda itself, we can see there is a constant struggle between good and bad. Same can be seen in Ramayana and Mahabharata. So that is here depicted in the form of Daivāsura Sampad Vibhāga Yoga, and definitely Daivi Sampad has to win. So now I come to conclude. Daivi and Asuri Sampat represent two opposite trajectories of human development, self-transcendence, and ego expansion. The Bhagavad Gita presents this framework as a practical psychology of life, grounded in human choice and responsibility. In an age marked by ethical uncertainty and psychological unrest, this chapter offers a timeless guide for individuals, educators, and leaders. The real Kurukshetra lies within the human psyche. And the victory worth achieving is the victory of wisdom over impulse, compassion over cruelty, and self knowledge over ego. So, the victory of Daivi Sampat over the Asuri is very much necessary. That is a takeaway from this 16th chapter called Daivāsura Sampad Vibhāga Yoga. So, now I stop here, and thank you very much for the patient listening.